I'm now recording. So let's say that you first say, you know how you feel when there's someone special, or your pet, your dog or your cat greets you when you get home from school, and that special person is there. That special person could be your abuelita, it could be your abuelito, it could be your tia, it could be your aunt, could you be your mom, and you're just really happy to see them. I want you to think about that. And so they're going to think. And then you say, I want you to tell your elbow partner what it feels like when you see that person. But let me give you an example. When I see my dog Bruce, when I come home, it feels like a warm chocolate chip cookie inside me. And all I want to do is pick him up because he is so sweet and so warm, and he just feels so good. Now, I want you to think about who gives you that feeling, or what gives you that feeling. Now think about it, and I want you to tell your elbow partner. And so the kids start talking about, my duck, my mama, whatever it is. And then you then bring them back and you say, tell me some of the things. Who is it with you? And it's my mommy. Why is it your mommy? Follow-up question using language. It's my mommy because I really like my mommy. When she comes home, blah, 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 and she always has something for me. And Johnny, who is it with you? And so you talk to a few kids. What are they doing? They're using language. They're using a concept. You're building a concept. Then you introduce the vocabulary. That warm chocolate chip cookie feeling, or having the nibbly feeling of your cat or whatever, that is called love. I now introduce the target vocabulary. They just learned the concept. Now they got the vocabulary. When I know they can now understand the vocabulary, I can say that warm chocolate chip cookie feeling, because now I have also given them a definition of what love is called love. I have a chocolate chip cookie feeling. What is your feeling, little Denise? What is your feeling, little Raul? Well, that's the feeling of love. Everybody say love. Oh, love. Say it again, love. Oh, love. So now I want you to turn to your partner and say this. I feel love when I see blank. Now they turn to each other. I feel love when I see my mommy, because my mommy always has so many kisses for me and hugs for me. And they just talk to each other. And then you come back and you say, so share what you just said with your elder partner about love. So share, and you keep saying the word, and the kids are saying the word, and you're saying the word, and the word is up on the board, and they're using it in context, and they're using that sentence stem. That's what they want to see. And now you say, everybody, we're going to think about now some of the feelings that we have about love, and we're going to write those words on the board here. I'm going to write them for you, because we're going to make a poem about love for Valentine's Day. And then they get to make their little dumb poem, but they know about love. They have words they can use to help them make this poem about love. I modeled how to think of it. I showed that I know how to get them to use vocabulary in an appropriate, comprehensible, conventional, and syntactical way, so that I'm building language. That's academic language. Function, the language function, the language demand, and then the language application. The function is the verb. How do you want them? What is it that you want them to do? I want them to talk about love. How do you want them to talk about love? I want them to talk about love in a discussion. I want them to deal with love in text. I want them to deal with love in writing. That's the function. And then the syntax is, can they write, speak, listen, whatever, about whatever the language is, in such a way is grammatically correct, it is comprehensible, and it demonstrates understanding. Now, before I go on, I gotta know if you guys got that, because if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard for you to pass.
Connie, you just showed a lot of repetition a lot of structure. And those are the things that are really important for students to learn language. And you see that. If you say it one time, then that's not going to be enough. You have to repeat it. Have them repeat it and do it again. Partners, pairs, whatever, little group support, but you have them repeat it. And those that are ELs will pick it up a lot faster that way. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, anyone else?
Connie, so can you explain the difference? You know, you used the word syntax, and I think that was part of one of the language demands they wanted. What's the difference between that and discourse?
No, discourse is we're going to discuss. Discourse just means we're talking. All that's a function. That's how I'm going to have you use the language. The function of the language in this, it's the environment or the context. Think about it this way. You have content, which is target language, love, hate. The kids are learning about antonyms. So you have love and you have hate, you have happy and you have sad. Okay, we're just going to use those four. So that's the target vocabulary, in addition to the word antonym. Now, they most likely had synonym before they had antonym. So synonym is a target word. It's a word they must know and understand in order to have access to the lesson. Antonym is a target word because that's the concept word they're learning today. And the words that help them to have access to the lesson are happy and sad, love and hate. They are not target words. They are the words necessary for them to apply the skill. So I call that the content, all right? The context, how are you having them use this language? That's your function. That's the function. And it could be talking to one another. It could be debating. It could be retelling. And you're going to see, they're going to give you this little box in the curriculum they give you that says these are language functions. And you can use anyone, like retell what somebody just told you. So, you know, I love my mommy because she always kisses me when I get home. Okay. The person listening is being directed to retell to partner A what they just said. It's retell a story. They have to summarize what was said. That's the verb. Just like in doing any, it's the verb in the so that tells you the context that they're going to do it in, the function of it. And then the syntax is kids are not saying, I be loving my mama because she be good and that be love. That's inappropriate syntax. That is the syntax of the street, of the home. That's not academic language. Academic language is when you give them the prompt. I love my blank because. So syntax means the language conventions so that what you say is understandable, comprehensible, and demonstrate you understand application that is appropriate. Does that answer your question?
Sound like making sure they're using it correctly and grammatically correct type of way.
That is syntax.
Okay.
Okay. So you would have different syntax for your regular English speakers and your ELDs, depending on the level of the ELD. If it's an ELD that is very low, they don't have a lot of language, but enough to be in your class, you can't ask them to say, I love my blank because she or he. You can have them say, I love my blank because she's nice. So it's a very short sentence with one little adjective at the very end. The rest of the kids would have to say, I love my blank because, and they have to end that because with another complete sentence. So they're going to make a compound sentence. So that's an appropriate adaptation, but you're teaching syntax to both regular English speakers and an English language learner. You cannot have the same prompt for both. You have to have a different prompt for your EL. You have to. You just have to, whether it's just do it. Okay? Is everybody good on that? How are you on that one, Betty? I mean, no, you're Sydney. Betty left. How are you on that one, Sydney?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm just taking notes.
No, I just want to make sure.
I know we are.
I'm checking in now because that's the other thing. I need always check in. You're always checking in on what they know. Always. You can never not do enough checks for understanding. And always ask the follow-up question. Why? How? I love my mommy because she's sweet. Well, what makes your mommy so sweet? That you love her. Again, you're using the language and they're using the language. Well, my mommy is sweet because she brings me candy. Oh, okay. So you could say, I love my mommy because she's sweet and brings me candy. And then you help the child to construct that kind of sentence. Okay? You have to use a new vocabulary word no less than 11 times in any given lesson. And some will say as high as 20. They have to hear it and use it that often before it really starts to set into the brain. Because what you're really teaching is the brain. The body is just what the brain gets to use. But you could be a quadriplegic from your neck down and still be a wonderful thinker because it's the brain that we teach, not the arms and the legs. Arms and the legs can help the brain. So, you're trying to teach the kids love, then you do this, and then you show them pictures of hearts, and then you can show them a heart and show them why it's not the same thing. And you can show them pictures of little puppies that are really cute and things like that, because those are all dealing with how do you feel, what emotion is coming out. So the brain now has different places to find this information when they need it, because you built a concept and multiple pathways to it. That's what they want to see. I'm just telling you what they want to see, because that is really teaching. Okay, you guys good there? Yeah. Okay. All right, now let's get into the thing. That wasn't even the thing. That was just academic language. And the reason I did that is we don't teach you how to teach academic language. So if you don't know how to do this, you're going to fail. And I don't want anybody, at least that I talk to fail. Okay.
No, we don't want to.
Now, if I didn't talk to you, well, then that's just tough bananas. Okay. Everybody should have gotten the link to the Live Binder resources. The access code is 12345. This is just a straight up Cal State Teach resource binder that I use for all my students. These green tabs right here are the, hold on, let me make this a lot bigger. These green tabs are the EdTPA tabs. If you have any problems regarding lesson planning and alignment, you can always look at this tab. I call it Lesson Planning 101, and I walk you through how to align a standard to your outcome, to your assessment. Because that is a key. They're looking, is what you've got aligned to what you're asking for, and how do you know? What are you going to teach? How are you going to teach it? And how are you going to know? That's what they always ask you. You going out?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, my husband said, they can see you, huh? I went, yeah, they can. So, okay, and then there are just other things in here. So I just want you to know where to come. So we're going to go to the overview one here, and this is this document shows up twice. And I want to go, this is how I want to start this, is going through this document. Read the handbooks that are in the TPA section of the website. They are overwhelming, but they are extremely helpful. We're especially going to read the one on elementary literacy. That's the big one for you. There's also a TPA handbook on task 4. It's very small, but it's really succinct and it tells you exactly what you're supposed to do in task 4. Follow all the directions exactly. If they say no more than 10 pages, then don't give them an 11th page. If you give them more than they asked for, they will lower your score.
They don't like that.
They don't want that. They want exactly what they asked for. If you have to add more stuff in order for them to understand what you've done, then you don't know what you're doing. That's how they're thinking. Don't provide more, don't provide less. Check your work against the EdTPA rubrics. And I'm going to show you a rubric that you can lay right next to your work and put a check mark. It asks you, is this here? Did you answer this question with this kind of stuff in it? If you feel like you did, check it off. If you don't feel like you did, then maybe you need to go back and look and see if you can beef it up some. Okay? Okay, so here's the capstone of this entire exam. They're looking at, we're only talking about the first part, the English language arts part, for the most part. They are looking at planning, your intent to learn, your intent to teach. This is where you are making good choices. This is the intention. These intentions are actually commentaries, and this is a document that says commentary. When the evaluator is getting ready to do your work, they look at the commentary first. They read your commentary, because the commentary is where you tell them everything you know about your students, your context, your theoretical background, the experience that you had, the strategies that you choose, the appropriate activity to go with the strategy. This is where you explain to them, I'm going to teach this lesson this way because, and then the rest of it is all the answers to the because. That's the biggest piece you write in all of them. Then you write the lesson plan. What I suggest you do is after you've taught your lesson, and I love that you recorded 3 days worth of you teaching this lesson, pick the best video and then write your lesson plan to meet that video. Don't write the lesson plan and then try the video. Look at the video and then
that's exactly what I did. Because I started the lesson plan, and then obviously when you teach it, it doesn't always go as planned. And so I went back and filled in kind of the lesson plan based on what actually some of the things that, and then it helped me plan for the next day, for the next time that I taught the second lesson.
Yep. So that's what I really encourage you to do. And then looking at all of that stuff, pick the best 2 videos. You pick the best 2 because you already have the lesson plans. Okay. Then you have the assessment, and it's very important that you analyze student responses while you are in teaching. For my students, there are 3 things I always tell them. It's reflection of practice, reflection in practice, and reflection on practice. Yeah. Reflection of practice is your planning, your intent. What do I know about teaching math? Well, I'd say absolutely nothing. I know nothing about teaching math. So how am I going to teach this math? I'm going to have to find some strategies. I'm going to have to find some activities. I'm going to have to look and see what theorists say about math. I'm going to talk to my mentor teacher. I then am going to make some good choices on how to plan this lesson. So that's where I go back and learn about what it is to teach math. What are my experiences in teaching math? The next is reflection in practice. And that's what this one is. When you are teaching a lesson, your students are giving you data every single second. And you have to be able to read that data. Are students engaged? Are they not engaged? Is part of the room, answering all the questions? Do I need to rephrase the question? I need to back up and ask a follow-up question to see whether or not they do know what they can do. I was talking to a teacher day before yesterday who was on this, and she says, well, when I ask my kindergartners a question, I have them put their thumbs up like this if they agree. And I told her, I said, well, while I know that this is a way for you to have them communicate, I personally would not give you that as a valid check for understanding, because only thing you have measured is their ability to put their thumb up. But you have no idea what's in their head because you never asked them. You've got to ask that follow-up question. You've got to find out what they know. And in the process of doing that, they need to respond to you using academic language. So if they start responding to you with just like monosyllabic things, you go like, so what is, why did the Mars rover fail? And you taught this lesson and they go like, gas, no gas, no gas. Well, that's actually the right answer, but you didn't have to back them up and say that like a scholar. So that they will say, the Mars rover failed because it didn't have any gas. Or how did you come up with that answer? The Mars rover didn't have any gas. How'd you come up with that? Well, and so it blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you just want to know what they think. You want them to use language. You want them to do the majority of the talking. So you've got to set it up so that they are talking and talking and talking. That's what this is. Are you really assessing your students, checks for understanding? And this is also after they've done the lesson, because you have to have something tangible. Are you analyzing what they did with the tangible piece of the lesson? And then are you reflecting on what you did? And so that the next time you do this, you'll make these changes. That's what they want to see. Academic language, as we talk, content, context, and function, the demands of the language and the syntax. Because you're in the state of California, your focus student will be an ELD student. You will have an ancillary student, which is the special needs student. You have to talk about what that student requires as adaptations, but you do not have to have evidence of the adaptations. In other words, you do not have to show this special needs student's work, but you must address the adaptations in the section that says, what are your adaptations? Okay. The document I'm going to show you, that's an example, because this person did a stellar job with the very first task, and the other two tasks, not so much. But the way that she wrote the first one is a good model for you for writing all the other ones. Excuse me. Balanced literacy is really what they want to see. That's the focus for the state of California is, are we teaching kids how to read? And the only way you can learn how to read is to understand language. And the only way you can know how to understand language is to use language. So the function of the language, the demand of the language, and then the supports for the language. They want to see that. And I would suggest, remember when I was doing the thing on love for the kids, and then I asked them to tell me things that they loved, and I was going to write it on the board? I would be writing it on the board in a graphic organizer fashion. I would have them then fill out their own graphic organizers before they ever started their poem on what is love for Valentine's Day. Graphic organizers are really important when used appropriately. And the reason is, the theory on that is it helps the brain organize new information, especially if it's a concept that you know nothing about. So Sydney, in your case, how many kids have been on a schooner?
How many what?
How many of your students have been on a schooner?
I don't know what that is.
See, you don't even know what it is, so they probably don't either. A schooner is a type of sailing ship. And the reason I bring this up is I was looking at an old program that they used to have all over the place, not just Oakland, but everywhere. And the first story for 4th grade was about a schooner. There was a first story when they entered 4th grade in this anthology, and it was about a schooner. And I was talking to the teacher who was going to be teaching this thing on the schooner, and I was standing on the corner of Havens Court and International Boulevard in Oakland. Now, how many kids that live in that area know what a schooner is? There's no way for them to access this information. So that's where that whole building background stuff is so important. Okay. Language, the content, the context, and the syntax. What's the language? What's the word? How's it function? This is how you're going to do it. All the tasks have a common architecture. So that's why we're going to focus on task number 1, because that's also the largest task. You're going to plan for a 3 to 5 day or 3 to 5 hour of instruction. You're going to make sure that you clearly provide information on the school, the content, the students, what they bring to your classroom, the community, everything you know, because you cannot teach whom you do not know. You're going to have an academic, social, emotional development that is appropriate. So for you, Sydney, you're dealing with teenagers right now. You know what is developmentally appropriate for a teenager. But when you get put in your 2nd grade classroom, you're going to freak out because 2nd graders aren't anything like high schoolers. High schoolers are like 2nd graders, but 2nd graders are not like high schoolers.
Yeah.
Okay. So this whole piece right here, you're going to really need to find out about those kids in the class. So you and your mentor are really going to need to sit down and talk about the kids.
That's something I was kind of wondering how I'm even going to go about doing that. If I should just spend some time with the teacher, if I should if I need to look into any of their files or how in depth do I really need to get?
You have to convince this evaluator that you know your class. But you want to know what a class can constitute? 4 kids can be a class. 4 kids, one small group, with a kid who was below expectations, meeting expectations, and exceeding expectations. And the ELL kid. That's it. That's a class. So you don't have to do 25 or 30 kids. You just need to have her give you 4 kids. And I would suggest that you work with those 4 kids every single day, all day long, and plan lessons for them. Let them get to know you, because you have to build rapport with them in a very short period of time. You don't have the time. In like a week, you got to build rapport, and you got to get the thing signed. You still have to have that video stuff signed. You got to make sure those 4 kids will, or somebody's got to sign it. And I would encourage you to just videotape lessons. Every time you're teaching them a lesson, just videotape it. Okay, because lessons, if let's say you're doing, you're going to have to do English language arts with them. The math lesson, not so much. The English language arts, yes. So you're going to have language that goes over multiple periods of days. You can go back and create the unit. There's absolutely no EdTPA police. Okay, you just have to construct it so that they know that you know how to create 3 days worth of instruction that scaffolds one another. You only need 4 kids, and that's for you. Just take the 4. You don't need the whole class. Just take the 4.
So you suggest I don't do the whole class?
No, not now. You don't have enough time. May, what do you think? I don't think she's got enough time to build rapport with an entire classroom of kids.
Wow.
You will have to, for your 25 days, be involved with the whole class. But for the EdTPA, you only have to have a small group. Okay, so you're doing 2 things at one time. One is your 25 days, but the other part, the most important part right now, are those 4 kids. Okay. The same thing with you. You don't have to do your whole class Shantara, you can do, 4 kids. I don't know why 4 works, but it does. You want to make sure that you incorporate the prior knowledge, family and community, any artifacts or commentaries that would make this appropriate for them, that's going to talk about what evidence of their learning. Okay, the very first task of task 1 begins with intent. And you are going to talk about the instruction and social context. You're going to have your lesson plans in there. You're going to have your instructional materials and student assignments. You have to have those artifacts, excuse me. You have to make sure that you have your planning commentary, and you have to explain why they did the things, like explain how all these things built on one another and how it's relevant to the kids, and strategies and activities have to match and have rationales. Now, I don't know how your faculty talks about a strategy and an activity. A strategy is always the choice the teacher makes. I'm going to teach it this way based on all the stuff that I know about the kids and the curriculum and so on. And this is the activity associated with the strategy that I'm going to use, because this activity, this choice of this activity, is the best activity to meet my learning outcome. And then I'm going to ask the follow-up question: why? Why do you think that one is the best activity and the best strategy? And that's where you want to get into, because Howard Gardner says, because Vygotsky provides this, because Piaget says, don't just drop names in, but do bring in theorists appropriately. They like that, and I encourage you to do that. Then the next one is your instruction video. You are going to submit an unedited video. It's the instruction commentary for this video says that you can trim the beginning and the ends of it, and that the middle of it, whatever the instruction part, should be unedited. If, however, there is an edit, it has to be logical and you need to explain it. So if you're teaching a lesson, and lessons going along just fine, and then a wasp flies into your room and the kids go berserk, and then you get the wasp out of the room and you get them back under control 5 minutes later. So when you're teaching the lesson now, the kids are sitting in the same seats, but you're on the other side of the room. You need to explain why you're on the other side of the room. If it's a continuation of the lesson, that's not going to be a problem. So they have that kind of exception, but I would encourage you not to use it, just in case you get into trouble. But I do want you to know you do have that available to you. There will be 2 clips that amount to no more than a total of 20 minutes. The smallest clip should be no more than 5, and the longest clip no more than 19, but that doesn't add up to 20. But you cannot have more than 20 minutes. I would encourage your first clip, the longest one, which is your direct instruction clip, to be about 12 minutes. And let me tell you why. Talk about the brain again. Depending on the age of the child, the younger they are, the less time they have. But on the average, the brain is only going to pay attention to something for 10 minutes, period. After 10 minutes, the brain says, okay, this is boring. I don't like it. She's not doing anything different. She just keeps talking. I start to disengage. That's when you need to remember, I talked about assessment in practice while you're teaching it. That's the data you need to check out from your kids. All of a sudden, you notice everybody's got a little more wiggle. All of a sudden, you notice that 2 or 3 more kids are starting to look out the window. When you see that, it's time for you to switch up. You know what it's time for you to do? A check for understanding. A turn and talk. A tell me what you know. Something for them to apply so that their brain gets a break. And then you come back. The best thing to think of is a 9-minute lesson with a 1-minute wrap-up. And then you can have them apply for 2 minutes. and then you come back, because after 10 minutes, they don't care. And the younger they are, if you have someone who's 7 years old, you got about 7 minutes before they decide that they don't want to listen anymore. You have to switch it up. You have to do something different. That's just how the brain works. So just in your own practice, if you talk more than 10 minutes after kids, all you're doing is making yourself feel good, so you can say, I did it. But those kids are going like, man, this woman is so boring. I wish she would shut up. That's what they're saying. But they're polite, so they don't do that.
Not mine.
So the minimum is 5. So I would say if you were around 17 minutes total, you're doing pretty good. Any questions about that? And they don't have to be on the same day, because the second video has to show the kids, has to show you applying some assessment pieces to the kids based on what you understand about what they're learning. So you could start a lesson on day 1, and the other video could be on day 3, where the students are demonstrating an application of what they learned in days 1 and 2. That's okay.
Just as long as you can trim the beginning and the end. That's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. You only give them the 2 clips, that the whole focus. And if there's a particular, if for some reason, and it could happen because unless you have a microphone and the kids have microphones, when you're doing the video, if you can't hear a kid clearly, you can either write directly on the video what the kid said, or you write a little transcript for the evaluator, and you tell the evaluator 6.3 minutes in, 6 minutes and 30 seconds in, this kid's going to say this. Because if they can't hear it, they can't evaluate it, and you're responsible for giving them an alternative way, which is the transcript. And you don't have to do a whole transcript, just the parts that are not clear for them to hear.
And this is for task 2, right? For the commentary.
For anytime you're doing video, because you're going to be doing more videos, but this is task 2.
Okay.
This is not the only video. This is just the 2 big ones.
Okay.
Okay. Make sure that when you do the video, that they are able to see the children's reactions to you teaching. It's really important that they can see how the kids are reacting to your teaching. All right, task 3 is the assessment. And what you do is, now you've assessed the whole class, and then you assess your 4 kids, the 3 high, medium, low, and the EL kid. From that assessment, up here I said 3 kids, and it should be 4. From that assessment, you're going to have the evidence from your 4 kids, and you're going to have whole class you're going to talk about. So if the kids did writing, you don't have to put up 30 pieces of writing. You just put up the 4 pieces that you're using as your exemplars. Okay. Then you are going to show from that evidence conversation that you're having with the kids about their work. So let's say that the kids have to write a paragraph for you. And let's say that you noticed that in your classroom that 70% of the kids did not indent. They just started, on the margin, and that 80% of the kids really did not construct a topic sentence properly. Okay, I'm just saying. You have to write that down. Now, when you talk to your little group of 4 kids, you're going to talk about, because this was pretty, almost the whole class did this wrong, and you're going to show that evidence and what the whole class did. And if you have 4 kids, this is what those stupid 4 kids did. They're not stupid, but you know what I mean. 4 kids, like, what's teaching 4 kids? That's no teaching at all. But you can have 4 kids. I'm just saying. So you say, like, I noticed this pattern that everybody did not indent. Most of the children did not indent. So I was not clear on indentation. So I think this time I'm going to teach them how to do this differently. So maybe when you talk to them, you say, okay, you have to indent, and nobody did it. So I'm going to show you what I want you to do. I want you to take this finger on your left or right hand, depending on what you're left-handed or right. I want you to put it right by the margin before you start a paragraph. And then I want you to start your first word right next to your finger. Now, that's a different way of teaching them what it is they need to know. You have to create a video or audio of this reteach. If you want to create a whole transcript, you can, but that's a lot of writing, and you're already doing a lot of writing. These videos and audios do not count against the 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What you cannot say is, I'm going to talk to the student about X. You actually have to demonstrate talking to the students about X and how you retaught it and what you noticed. If the other thing is that some kids didn't do punctuation and some kids didn't do indentation and some kids, but there was no pattern, it was random, then that's going to be a totally
A boy's at the door.
I know.
He got so good. You let go.
Okay, so next you have the assessment commentary. And the assessment is part of the total lesson series. So this is about the student work, the video, the written work, and the samples, your reflection on it, and the next steps. Okay? So any questions so far on those? Okay, good. Tasks 1 through 3 are the analysis of teaching effectiveness and A, reflection on your planning. There must really be something going on in her house right now because she took the image off.
I know.
So and then you have academic language development. The academic language is part of task 1, and there has to be evidence of how you engage them in that language. They have to actually see you demonstrate how you teach academic language. How you're going to give them the opportunity to gain fluency, and the evidence has to be in the video, written work, and work samples. Special needs student, not EL. In one of the commentaries, you must explain how you made adaptations for the special needs students, but you don't have to have evidence. No videos, no student work, but you must address it. In task 1, there are a zillion rubrics. Just task 1 has a zillion rubrics. And there's a rubric for every section in task 1. So the first 3 tasks have the same architecture. And then did you kill him? Did you string him up by his fingernails? You didn't want us to see his death, huh?
No, it's good.
So, hold on. Okay, so the first 3 tasks have the same architecture. So to put this in context, when you're thinking about the terms that you are as a student, excuse me, I said tasks and I meant to say the rubrics, not the tasks. In terms of the correlation of you in our program, so we're a 3-term program. A level 1 on a rubric means that you're just beginning Cal State Teach and you're a term 1 student and you have some understanding about teaching and learning, but think about where you are now and where you were in term 1. Okay, that's what a level 1 and 2 student is. It's like you're getting there and it's like, I really don't know much about teaching. I thought I did, but I really don't. We don't want these people in the classroom. That's what level 1 and 2 is. We don't want you in the classroom in front of children because you don't know what you're doing. A level 3, which they call proficient, is a beginning term 2 student. You do understand lesson planning, you've had some experience with mentors, and you can at least do a lesson. It may not be the most beautiful lesson in the world, but there's enough there that we know that you could be a teacher. A level 3 is a term 2 plus student. And what that means is you've gone through that whole thing on the reading, and you know about diagnosing kids, and you've gone through assessment, and you're pretty confident about what you're doing, and you're actually an intern teacher. and you have responsibilities as a teacher of record, and you can actually see that your students are learning. You do pretty well most of the time, and your students are actually learning. Level 5 is a really strong term 2 student and term 3. It's where you are right now. You should know enough about teaching that you can actually teach. Okay, so that's what a level 5 is. You want to shoot for level 5. If you hit level 3, you're good to go. But you don't want anything below a 3. You must come up with a score of 49 in order to pass. And what they do is they add up all these numbers, 2, 1, 5, and all those things. Task 4 is focused on math assessment as what is this? As is task 3? I don't know what the heck that means. I don't know what that means. I need to take that out. Just don't ignore that. I don't know what that means. So this is math assessment, whereas task 3 is the English language arts assessment. That's what I was thinking. Bad syntax. Bad, Connie, really bad syntax. I know it's boring, but you got to listen to me. You have to listen to me. Go get some gum, go get a Red Bull, but you got to listen. Before I go into here, do you have any questions about what I talked about so far? Let's just take a little break, a little brain break. No?
If heaven forbid, it doesn't go well, do we know what type of information they give us back on where we were lacking?
I don't know. We've never done this before. I don't know.
This
is brand spanking new. I do not know.
Yeah.
It was piloted in Southern California, and Cal State Teach participated in the pilot. But the thing about the pilot, it was to help the evaluators. Every single student that took this passed, regardless of their score. So we don't know. We haven't a clue. We don't know we don't know. We don't know. This a third party is the person who grades this. I don't know what they're going to do.
Do you know if we can resubmit like the same lesson and try to make it better and something like that?
If you don't pass a task, you retake the task. Now, I can't tell you what that looks like because I don't know.
We don't know at this point.
I wish I could tell you, but no one in our program, unless they have been an evaluator, I don't think one person in Southern California has been an evaluator, can answer that question.
Okay.
We don't know. We're going to find out. You guys are our guinea pigs. Sorry, but unfortunately, because we don't grade it, you have to pass it. Okay.
No pressure, right?
No pressure.
No pressure. No.
Okay, so now, task 4 involves some sort of formative math. The thing about task 4 is that you don't even have to teach the math lesson. So for you, Sydney, this is really great. You just have to be in the room when the math lesson is being taught, so you can see what the teacher did. And then you only have to take you look at the whole class, and then your 4 students. That's all you got to do. And then, just like you did in task 1, scenario 2, you're going to look at the whole class, you're going to look at the 4 kids, you're going to look at how it was taught, and they call it re-engaging the students. With that data, you're going to figure out how to reteach it to your 4 kids or whole class, where they made mistakes, where they need to do it better, and you're going to reteach it in a different way. And you need to have evidence of that reteach. Okay. But it gets me that you didn't even have to teach the lesson. You just have to know. So if it was taught using manipulatives that were green and you think using manipulatives that are blue would be better, all you have to do is have the rationale why blue manipulatives would be better, and then you, based on the data, and then you reteach the lesson using blue manipulatives. And if the data is the whole class is colorblind and the only colors they can see is white and blue, and the teacher used green, so they all thought it was white, so they didn't understand what was going on, Well, that's a perfectly legitimate reason to teach the lesson the same way, but use blue chips. Maybe that'll make it better. That's all. That's really all this is. Okay? You don't have to write up a full lesson plan. You have to explain clearly, though, what your reteach is going to be. You have to write up the commentary. Prove it with the evidence, the description of the learning segment. You provide an audio or video of the re-engagement lesson, the session that you have, just the session with the kids. Be sure to create a transcript if there's portion of the videos that you can't understand. How many times can you retake this thing? Currently, you can take a TPA 3 times. Right now, you can only take it 2 times. I don't know if that's going to get switched to 3 times. And I don't know what happens if you don't pass it. I don't know. I know that we cannot file for you. When the university files for your app, they put in the application. What it is actually put in a recommendation that you become the teacher. So we say you did everything, you passed your tests, and yeah, you could be a teacher. If you don't, I don't know what happens if you don't pass it after the second time, because we don't know. And we're trying to get a 3rd time in here because we personally don't think it's fair that if you can do a TPA 3 times, how come you can't do the EdTPA 2 times? I mean 3 times, but I'm just a worker bee. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We don't know.
We don't know. You can submit your EdTPA on any submission date you like that is posted by the state of California because we don't grade them. However, March the 3rd gives you enough time that if something goes wrong and you have to retake it, you can take this next date in March and still have it graded before the end of the term, and it will not hold up your credential. This is really important. Now, not passing the EdTPA does not affect your standing in Cal State Teach, and it does not affect your grade. If you don't pass the EdTPA, you don't fail your term. We just look and see what you did with the modules and what you did with your CE, and we give you a grade. One thing is not related to the other. Okay? So that's important for you to know because you can pass our whole program and still not get your teaching credential. That's important if you are an intern. Because if you're an intern, you have to be in a teaching program to keep your intern credential unless it expires. And then the hope is you've gotten your credential by that time. But if you don't have, if you're now the good part is you don't have to have a credential in the summer. It does not impact you for the summer. So if something happened and you did not pass it, since it's a summer term, you actually have more shots at passing it, but I don't know what this means if you can only take it twice. And you only take the task that you missed. But that's all.
Oh, that's good news.
You don't take the whole thing. If you miss task 2, you take task 2. If you miss 3, you take 3.
Oh, that makes it feel a little better.
And we're paying for it. We will pay for your retakes. Cal State, not me. Cal State Teach. Okay. Looking at what the candidate can do, not what the candidate cannot do. That's what they're looking at when they evaluate. And then what is the evidence of what they can do? And they look at your intention, why you did what you did, your student data, key understanding and literacy, academic use, and then the progress during the rubrics. Is there enough there? So do the commentary first, read it through. These are where you make all of your good choices. You're explaining all of your choices in all of your commentaries. And this gets into what the demands for language are. Function or the active verbs, Bloom's taxonomy. discuss. Discourse just means there's going to be talking, but you get to decide what kind of talking. Identify what the tasks the students will be engaged in and where they will identify vocabulary and key phrases. Identify syntax or discourse. They use it the same way, but syntax is really about conventions. Discourse is really about talking. Vocabulary and language function, making inferences. That's what this woman did, that you're going to have access to her video. Words need first, first, next, last, if the target is sequence. Oh, those are, okay, you have your target words, which are, antonym and synonym. But in order to access the lesson, a kid might also need to know first, next, and last. If you're talking about sequence is a language. Does that make sense? These were my notes, and this was the end of the day, and that's why this is all clunky, because by that time I was fried. But the point is that you have your target words, the academic vocabulary for the content that they are in, and then you have the other words they need to understand in order to apply the skills. So just make sure. Okay. This just explains what syntax is. This explains what discourse is. Discourse, how students are engaged in written or oral. Okay. You must be clear why you have this particular language demand. You must know about the activity. You must understand how it's going to be used. You must show where this happens. It doesn't have to happen right away in what you're doing, but you do have to show how it gets engaged. The assessment is important because you have to assess during the lesson, and you are an LP. I have no idea what that is. Understanding rubric level, period. I don't know what that means. She told us something, and it's like, oh, this woman needs to shut up. It tells you what the levels are. I'm going to go into that. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, you don't need to know that. That was just the directions. Okay. You guys got that? This is available to you. See, right now, I have done the worst teaching possible because I've been talking at you for 1 straight hour. And now I get to
I have a question.
Go ahead. Ask your question. Yes.
My question is, so I have standard. I have, let's see, 3 standards. I don't know why I'm getting feedback on my computer. But I have 3 standards related to writing. The writing the informative, writing the informative text. For them to be able to, let's see, what is it? And then within that has 4 different things: introducing topics and group related, and develop it with facts, linking words, and conclusions. All the components of a informative text. Then the other standard is being able to revise, plan, and edit. Right? And then the third one is the language convention. Right? So my lesson includes all of those. So I guess my concern is like I have the assessments would be all of that. At the end of the lesson, they have 4 different documents: one from the planning, one from the writing, one from the. So now I'm feeling like I have to go back and sort of. Just a second, Mom. I have to narrow down to say, okay, out of all of this do I want to just focus on were they able to capitalize versus being able to have them all the stuff for standards. So I guess that's what I'm struggling.
Well, let me put it this way. Your goal is for the children to be able to write a paragraph. That's your goal. Your learning goal. There's a lot of components necessary to get them to that goal. So you're going to segment the learning demand, how things are going to scaffold to get to that goal. So if the first thing they need to understand is what is a sentence, that there's a capital in the front, a period in the back, Then you have a learning segment that goes over 3 days that is talking about capitalization. On the way to a paragraph, then you have writing a topic sentence. That could take 5 days, but you built on what you had. The first day was writing sentences. The first segment in this goal going to paragraphs is writing just a sentence. The next one is writing a topic sentence. Then the next one, learning segment, would be writing 3 supporting sentences based on what's in the topic sentence.
Mhm.
Then the last one would be writing a concluding sentence based on what you said in the topic sentence and the 3 sentences that are the supporting sentences. The final assessment, which is the goal, which is actually 6 weeks out or 4 weeks out, is that the students will be able to write a complete paragraph.
Well, they're third grade. They should be able to. So,
I'm just telling you how to look at, and I'm talking, whether they can or can't is not the issue here. I'm showing you how to create learning segments toward a goal. You have a 3-day segment here and a 5-day segment here and a 4-day segment here and a 2-day segment there, because you can't do all of it at one time. It never goes that way, because you have to know how to do one thing before you can move to the next thing.
Mhm.
So that's how you have all those standards in there. But in this lesson, are you teaching every single one of those things in the standard in this 5-day lesson or 3-day experience? And are you teaching all those things all the time in every single lesson that they have? Or are you building from like day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4?
Well, day 1 is focused on the planning. So, and then, the planning of it. And then day 2 is the drafting of it. And day 3 is the editing and the final draft of it. So, and I guess the underlying goal would be, to understand, obviously that you're supposed to capitalize and punctuate when you're writing. And then also the underlying goal is, all right, when you're writing, you need to have, a topic sentence, the details, and a conclusion.
So this is actually a culminating. This is a series of that leads to the culmination of what happened all before. Writing a sentence, writing the topic sentence, writing the other sentences, writing the concluding sentences. This is a culmination now. They actually have to demonstrate they know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to set the context. What's your context? What are you going to write in your commentary? The students have just finished 3 weeks of this and 2 weeks of that and 4 lessons of this. And this particular part now is this series of lessons is the end of it. They're doing a culminating, they're going to demonstrate they know how to do it. I do want you to know something, is that what you're getting ready to do with that paragraph is a summative assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And they want you to do a formative assessment.
Oh, okay.
Because what you're saying is, okay, you've learned this stuff, now demonstrate this and I will see if you know how to do it.
Right. You
can write a summative assessment as a formative assessment, but what you just explained to me was a summative assessment. You're actually looking at, did they get the last 4 weeks worth of learning here? Can they do this?
Right.
Okay.
No, you're right, because we are using this as part of their,
summative assessment. That's when you gotta read the directions very carefully.
Yes.
So I'm just saying.
You know what else I noticed, Connie? From what I have always understood as a formal assessment would be something like, a standardized test. But what they're defining as a formal assessment could be a quiz.
It's formal because it's got the structure to it. I'm going to give you 10 questions and you're going to give me 10 answers. Mm-hmm. That's why they say it's formal. But it's still summative. It's still formative, because it's not a summative assessment. An informal assessment or formative is when I'm walking around, I'm getting information more informally.
Oh man, so they want a formative. They don't want summatives.
Nope.
Okay, I'm glad
So
I need to pump the brakes and refocus then.
I'm going to show you the lesson planning template, and then I'm going to show you the lady who did it. Okay, so this is the oh, you know what? I don't want to show you this just yet. No, this is what I want to show you. Hold on. I don't want to show you this. Oh, where is it? Balanced literacy. I want to show you this. Okay, this is the balanced literacy template. And in this template, and this was especially important because in the high school area, things are just a little different in high school. And I love high school. That's what I taught was high school. So I would do high school in a heartbeat. But you don't really get, when you're teaching secondary, the opportunity to do these things because people consider them elementary. The teaching literacy part, but with Common Core, it's through the entire curriculum. So when you're teaching, oh, come on. Oh, you're not going to get any bigger. Why aren't you getting any bigger for me? Maybe you're just, there we go. When you're teaching balanced literacy, the balance is here, and all of the parts, reading, writing, listening, speaking, word study, and assessment. This is your vocabulary. This is discourse, and this is engagement with text. This is the assessment of what they've done. So what's nice is you can have them while you're doing listening and speaking. Let me get this one. It's just bigger. I think I can make this one just bigger. When you're doing listening and speaking here, it shows that listening and speaking can be supported. They can have independent practice, and it can be modeled. These are activities that you can create. These are strategies that you can use that have an accompanying activity for listening and speaking. What they say here is that you have to support the listening and speaking syntax. That's when we're talking about giving them prompts that say, do it this way or do it that way. The independent practice is when they get to talk to one another and not to you. They get to listen and talk to one another. And then here's the modeling, which is you model what it looks like. You have to do those think alouds and then allow them to practice. With writing, you can do these kinds of writing. With reading, you can do these kinds of reading. I'm going to be showing you a guided reading lesson because it has everything in it. There's nothing that's not in this lesson that the EdTPA didn't ask for. That's why if you just follow the structure, you just follow the structure, you'll be perfect. And then it talks about the different kinds of assessments. So in word study here, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, spelling, and so on. It all depends on your grade level. What grade level are you going down to?
Me?
No, Sydney, yeah.
I think second.
Okay. Well, you do know in second grade, they are learning still to read. So you're going to have lots of opportunity to deal with vocabulary and lots of opportunity to deal with sentence stems and syntax. It's right. The lessons I'm going to show you is right up your alley. You could just implement this lesson one of these days or the whole 3 days, and you would be perfect. Absolutely perfect.
I actually can do that. I don't.
Yes, you can. And the reason is that you will write in your commentary that you are implementing a reading A to Z, a balanced literacy reading A to Z lesson. You tell them that. You tell them, because schools have curriculums and programs, and you are required to teach the curriculum and the program. The how you teach it is up to you, but you will get the structures in reading A to Z. You don't want to teach it like it's a script, even though they give you a script, but they tell you how to script it. And if you just do the scription, you script it the way they provide for you, ask these kinds of questions. And they even model, I say this and the kid's gonna say that. I'm gonna do this and the kid's gonna do that. And the reason why is this. You're gonna be perfect. Okay?
That's great.
So the this is, now which one is this? I'm not going to, they give us this, but I'm not going to, this is a balanced literacy. That's not the one I want you to do. I mean, we're going to actually look at the rubrics. You are going to have on this, when you go into this tab, you will be able to get a 14-day free trial. And once you get your free trial, you're going to want to go into resources. And when you go into resources, I'm not exactly sure how your trial is going to come to you, but when you want to go into resources, you can go through some of the things you'll be able to get, and some of the things are going to say like, it's a free trial, you got to pay for it. So like the bilingual stuff, you can't get that. They just say, look what we have, but you got to pay for that. You can get foundational skills. You can get Common Core. You can get key reading skills that are over here, but not over here. So let's say that you are going to do a closed reading. Closed reading is always good. You don't have to do closed reading, but you could. You can go in here. Here is a 2nd grade closed reading lesson. And so it says, for this, they're going to use blah, 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 closed reading. They give you tips for the video, more about closed reading packets. So I'm trying to see if how they give this to you, because I really don't know. Someone environment, what is this? Oh, okay. So here we have the name of a book. How does someone's environment affect how they live? 2nd grade. Then it tells you these are the student resources and these are the teacher resources. These are your teacher tips. These are the Common Core resources for all packets. So let's see if they give this to you for discussion leader, grades 2 to 4. Nope. Well, I guess if you have the free trial, you can go ahead and get it. I'm not, because you have to put that in, and it's, for me, that's it. I think we're still there, yeah. I'm not going to worry about that right now.
That's okay. I'll take a look at.
But I just want you to know how to get in there. Sure. Then you'll find it, and then I'll show you in the next tab what all this is going to look like. Where am I up here? I move this. Just let them know it's a reading A to Z lesson. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I just knocked myself out of LiveBinder. Okay. This is the lesson that I gave to everyone because it's a 3rd grade lesson and it is perfect. Just make sure when you log in under Cal State Teach, and then you don't have to ask me for permission. So here, this is in my Google Drive. And as you can see, this one is the, I think, copy for the EL, EL pairs. I think this is the teacher doc, yeah. Here's the teacher document. In this teacher document, it shows you that it's a 3-day lesson. So it gives you that. It says this is an EL leveled reading lesson plan. You can't get these because it's a free, but this is the example. It tells you what the vocabulary focus is. It gives you your instructional focus, what you're going to do. So when you do something, you can say, I'm doing this because I'm building background. And then you have reading activities. This is a language demand, shared reading. It tells you pages, it tells you what it is and pages to do stuff. Here you see it gives you prompts. it takes blank to make a pair. So now the children are going to be practicing. What's it take to make a pair? Talk it over. And so you know now this is the academic language. When you ask them questions, they have to respond this way. Then it gives you the grammar focused. They have paired practice. This is day 2. It gives you guided practice, independent practice. Remember all those things you saw on balanced literacy? And the reason I like this is actually a guided reading lesson. Here's the guided reading part. And this particular part, if you were to just videotape yourself doing this with the way that you also built up the background, or they knew, or you wrote about how you built up the background, you'd be fine. They give you the book. You get a copy of the book. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can create the book. Then you have paired and individual practice on the 3rd day, which is using language, which you now can informally assess by listening to the kids as they speak to one another. And then you have independent practice. Plus, they have all these graphic organizers and manipulatives that you can use to help them gain access and the ability to do this. And it's all nicely packaged in one place. Here are the copies of everything. These are all the handouts, all the graphic organizers, all the things kids can do to play with language as you're teaching them the language. And then look, oh my God, there's an assessment. And then these are just, this tells you how to do things, EL pairs. And this is a copy of all the student, what is this? The copy of all the, this is a copy of all the teacher stuff. This tells you, this is your page. It tells you everything. And so I just want, and these are books, they're in different formats. One is like if you're going to make a four page, a flipped book, just back to back. These are just different ways. Same book. All you have to do is make 4 of them because you only have 4 kids. Okay. Does that help? Does that take a lot of your anxiety level down?
No, absolutely not, but it's helpful, yes.
Yeah, well, that's the homework assignment. If you just read through this before you even start, after we've gone through all this commentary and stuff, I just want to point out some things because I think as we go through, you'll be able to see how this is going to help you. All right. So here we have a vocabulary focus. The kids are going to match words and pictures. So here the students will be able to learn this vocabulary and use it in order to do whatever. How do you assess this? The kids are going to match words and pictures. What's the strategy that you use? I think I'll use a matching strategy. Why? Because these kids are, especially ELs, their language is very low. So they can recognize the picture concept and we will go over the words and they will match the words. They have a chance to play and read and interact with words. That's academic language learning. And you know what? It tells you that right here. They're going to say the word, they're going to see the word, they're going to repeat this stuff. It tells you how to implement it, and that's how you teach vocabulary. And then it says the instructional focus. Why are you doing all of this? Well, you want to build some background knowledge because you know they're not going to be able to move forward unless they have this background information. It tells you now how to build. It gives you a strategy and the accompanying activity for building the background knowledge, because it says you're going to have the students examine the cover of the front of the book, and then you're going to read aloud to the students of the book, and you're going to ask the students to describe what they see on the cover of the book. You're doing a walkthrough of the book. Then they're going to write the repetitive phrase, from the text on the board to blank, make one pair of blank. That's syntax for the discourse. Okay? You're going to point to each word. It tells you how to do it. You point to each word. You say, then you point to shoes, and you invite children to point to their shoes, to ears, and so on. And then you repeat this process, only now they're going to say as you say, repeating, using the words over and over. Then you're going to have them engage with the text. That's a whole piece right there. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Go get something. I can come over and slap you.
this is not a time I'm usually sitting down. So I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so tired.
So the reason I want to point that out is we're going to look at, so you have this. You really need to read these through and pay close attention to every single one of these kind of captions they give you here, because you're going to see where every single one of those is going to show up in your commentary. Okay.
Connie, I guess what I was spending a lot of time on was interpreting what they're asking me to do on task 1, number 1, the central focus, A, B, and C.
Yes.
I felt like I was being redundant in my explanations because they're all so interconnected.
Yeah.
So I was starting to feel like maybe, I wasn't interpreting what they were asking me to do correctly.
Possibility. And that's why we have these sessions. Okay. So just, you know what? You learn from something that doesn't go well. You learn what was right, and then you learn what you need to do. So I don't want you to worry about it. Right now, just focus in on what I'm doing. You all will get a link to this, but I do not have this on the website. This is what I have in my documents. And I will share it with you. And I think is that one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, let me go back one. All right. Now we're going to have fun. We're going to have a whole bunch of fun. The first ones of these are just plain old boring. The first one and the second one, by the time we get to the third one, you'll see I'll start skimming over information. These are the rubrics. And the rubrics, I know you're wondering, how come she's not showing me the document? Because you have to have this background knowledge to understand how to read that document that I'm going to show you. And you have access to all this stuff, so don't worry. The evaluators get a rubric that looks very much like this. And they have, on this rubric, 1 and 2 have been combined. This is 3, and this is level 4 and 5. They have been combined. But this is level 4, and this is level 5. Proficient means there is enough there. You on your own can read 1 and 2. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on telling you how to fail. I'm going to spend a lot of time telling you how to be successful. If you want to read the non-exemplar, go right ahead, but I can't do it. I want you to pay close attention to the words or and to the words and. You can't get this any bigger. I wish I could, but I can't. Okay. Here you see that the candidate's plan, this is the Planning for Literacy Learning, Rubric 1, primary source. Context, this means commentary. Context for learning information, this is the planning commentary, prompt number 1. There are a zillion prompts in the planning commentary. And this one is the strategy review of lesson plans and instructional materials. Okay, so remember we're talking about strategies and activities? This is this one. And this one says that they want to know if the lesson is going to build through the day, the lessons itself and the lessons through the course of the learning event. And this is what they're going to look for passage. Minimal passage, but you know what they call the guy who got the lowest score on the doctor's medical exam but passed?
Doctor.
They call him doctor. That's exactly right. All you got to do is get a 3. You don't have to shoot for here. You'll probably fall right here if you screw up here. Okay, so it says that there are essential literacy strategies comparing or composing text. That means the kids have to look at text with a clear connection to related skills. Remember when I was talking about you had target vocabulary, you had ancillary vocabulary? The ancillary vocabulary is what is needed in order for you to relate to whatever the target is for the lesson. That happens in a lot of things. That's just the example that I'm using. If you're going to get a 4 or a 5, you want to be over here. The candidate's plan for instruction builds everything that was over here, but notice, with a meaningful context. So instead of just trying to get them to understand what love is, you get them to understand what love is in the context of a family, because the kids can relate to family. Or you get them to do love in the context of a gerbil. And that's because you have a gerbil in your room and everybody loves that gerbil. They fight over the gerbil to take him home and hug him and feed him. It's, are you able to make what you're teaching relevant to the kids? And they're looking for the essential strategies, but they are also, and it's really important you get these ands. Are you clear? Are there consistent and clear connections to related skills? This one just says that you have a connection. This one says that it's clear and consistent. That means you're doing it over and over. They gotta see it. Oh, did I lose one?
Yes.
She'll come back in. Level 4 is everything that you see over here. You plan and build authentic connections between reading and writing. And the candidate explains how he or she uses learning tasks and materials to lead student to independently apply these essential literacy strategies and the related skills. Okay, now, what does that look like? This is not a comprehensive list. This is an example. So do not think that these 3 bullets are the only thing they're going to look for. They're going to be looking for a lot of other stuff. This is just an example. So on a 3, to do this, they're going to say that you have a lesson that's aligned to your outcomes and that you are building skills or facts or procedures, and the essential literacy strategies are there, but they're not balanced. So you're using some stuff and you're almost like there, but then you kind of fall off and then you come back up again and you kind of fall off. There's enough there. They know that you know, but you just need more practice, and you'll get that when you go in the classroom. Here it says that everything that they see over here in proficient is evident over here, plus all those ands and ors. You have a sequence in the learning progression for the lesson, that you make connections that build on one another in literacy, and you support students in the application of these strategies. That's what gets you a 4. Now think about that lesson plan that I just showed you. It had vocabulary, then it had the repetition of talking about, you know, this is this and that is that. And then it had the pictures and the words and the matching and the discourse, and evidence is always being, and everything is sequential and it's being built one on the other. You see why those lessons, the structure of those lessons is what I want you to notice. Not necessarily what they say, but the structure and how one thing builds on the next. Any questions about this rubric? Okay. Then you get to, see, this is actually the scoring guide. This is what they use to score. Rubric number 2. This is planning to support varied student learning needs. Again, they tell you this is what we're going to be looking for. This one doesn't have ands or ors. This one just tells you, I'm expecting to see this. There are no ands or ors. This one, it says for the level 4, plan supports are tied to, I don't know if I'm doing this. I can't see because I don't have on my glasses. I can see it now. Plan supports are tied to learning objectives and the central focus. Supports address the needs of specific individuals or groups with similar needs. This is very important. Do not come with a drag and drop support for the kids. Do not come with a drag and drop support for your EL student. The evaluators want to know that whatever supports, adaptations, modifications, or decisions, choices you made for these kids is based on these kids in this room, in this lesson, at this time. So, you know how in our little LPA, you go into SDI and then you push wait time and then you move on? That will not work. You have to be specific for this EL kid because you described this kid. And so when you make an adaptation for this kid, it should be specific to that child. Hold on. Hello, it's Connie. Okay, that's the most important thing. Make all your adaptations, all your choices specific to these kids. Again, supports include specific strategies to identify and respond to common developmental approximations or misconceptions. So what you want to make sure about here is that you look at your developmental, emotional, social developmental chart. Are you asking them to do something that's developmentally appropriate? And if you are, quote the chart. Developmentally, kids this age should be able to X, and that's why I chose this strategy for them, because that's what kids this age do. That's what they want to see. Is this making more sense to you now? Okay, and the same thing down here. This is what they're looking for. Everything that they see over here in Proficient and are designed to scaffold learning for a variety of students, the English learners, struggling students, underperforming or gifted. Those are your special, this one plus whatever little special needs you have, and then identify and respond to developmental approximations or potential misconceptions. That you really have thought this through about who you're teaching. This rubric, still task 1, is that your knowledge of students and how it informs your teaching and learning. Here's where you describe your class, your context, the environment, everything about these kids, and how you are using that information to actually construct your lesson.
So Connie, I think in, what was it, task 4 or one of the ones where we had like the focus students.
Mhm.
So are they expecting us to outline those focus students in the context for learning document? Because like my class is kind of, it's really diversified in the sense of what their needs are. Like we have, you know, a lot of ELLs, we have a lot of struggling readers. I mean, we have an IEP and a 504, but they aren't in there. They go to special day class.
Okay.
So, you know, in general, you know, I have to design the lessons, you know, for the majority, which are, you know, reading below grade level versus, you know, the one that's, you know, two levels behind, they're leaving the class.
Well,
So,
if you're leaving the class, then you're not designing.
right. So I didn't even put them in my chart. So
Right.
my chart has, I don't have, like on the examples they have, okay, 1 student does this or 2 students does that. Like my chart just clumped them all together. I have 10 10 10 language learners, and I have,
But they're not
for example, 10 struggling readers. I just grouped them all together versus.
You can't do that.
Oh.
You've got 10 languages in your classroom. I mean, 10 struggling readers in your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
But they all struggle with the same thing. You've got 10 EL kids in your class, but they're not all on the same level.
Right.
If you clump all your ELs as just language learners, then it demonstrates that you don't know who you're teaching. Because some of those kids are going to be intermediate, some of them are going to be advanced, some of them are going to be emerging.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to say, I've got 3 emerging.
Well, I did. I broke it down, but I say I have, I have 10, but within that 10, this is how many I have for this group, and this group. But for all of them, these are the however it said, I forget what it asks us to do. Like
adaptations, those adaptations don't fit all your kids. Unless you're going to say, let me put it to you this way. There are no EdTPA police.
Yeah.
You are telling them about a class. Hello, it's Connie.
Hi, Connie. My name is Richard.
Yeah, what?
I'm calling from the Friendly and Roundtable Pizza on Washington Avenue.
Why?
And since you've been a valued customer, we just wanted to reach out to offer you a special promo coupon to say thank you. Oh,
that's okay. You know what? That's okay. We really don't eat pizza very much anymore, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Sorry. Normally I just hang up like I did the first time. I'm going to just turn it off.
So yeah, my class, there's so many different, and then we have some that go to Title I, some that are in intervention. So the classes, literally I have 13 kids on an SST right now.
Okay,
so,
let me ask you a question. Having all of these kids, how does this impact your teaching?
It makes it very
How do you plan?
Very challenging.
How do you plan for that? If you plan for the middle of the road, then you're planning poorly. I'm not saying you have to have 10 different lessons. And I'm also not saying here that they just said a special needs student.
Right.
You don't have to do all 10 of them. You can say that for this lesson, I am targeting this one student.
I see.
Okay, but
just hone in on what I'm focusing on for that particular. Okay.
Okay. But they need to know, and what it is that. Hello, Jan. I'm fine. What's up? Oh, you know what? Let me call you back. I'm in the middle of the meeting. That's okay. No. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. When I saw it was you, I said, I know what's going to happen. I will call you back later and we'll just set the next date. Okay. Bye-bye. Hold on. Everybody hold on. Okay, now it's off. All right. If they know, though, that you've got 10 of this and 7 of this and 4 of that, and you're totally verbal linguistic, they're going to kill you. Mm-hmm. Okay? You don't have to show every single adaptation, but they need to see that you respect the fact that you have this diversity in your classroom, because they're looking at the diverse learner, because California is filled with your classroom. And as the teacher, how do you deal with that? How do you make a rich learning environment that is accessible to as many kids as possible?
Right.
Okay, so if they see you just walk and talk and you got all this mix in your class, they're going to say, well, there wasn't a whole lot of supports for in general.
Well, I thought if I say something, if I'm doing, for instance, if on day 1, we're all reading it out loud and the kids are taking turn, and then we go back and read it again another day and we're listening to the story, or we go back again, you know what I mean? So I thought that if that would sort of help like a struggling reader, if I'm saying, okay, I read it once for, to hear the kids, to hear how they're doing, but then we read it again and then had the kids listen to the story to reinforce it. And so it's kind of teaching the middle of the road, but
you can't teach in the middle of the road. And let me tell you why. I'm sitting in your class. I'm a really poor reader. I don't have very good listening skills because I'm distracted all the time. I'm a boy. Okay, you're reading the story out loud to me. How do you know I'm listening?
that's true.
Okay, and then tomorrow we're gonna read it together. I can't read.
Yeah, I'm just listening and I can't pay attention.
And then how do you know that I'm listening or gaining anything? I've got no purpose. It's just busy. The brain turned it off because it isn't relevant to me. You're doing something that is not relevant to me, and the brain will not attend to things that are not relevant. It
Okay.
will automatically disengage. So the kid that's all wiggly and getting up, the reason he's wiggly and getting up is bored as hell.
Mm-hmm.
He's not engaged. How do you engage him? You're going to have to put a whole lot more energy into casting a larger net.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a purpose to the reading. You have to have stops for, all right, first time I'm just going to read it, this passage, so that you can just hear how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to read it again, but this time when I read it, I want you to pay attention to what Sarah looks like. So I start reading the passage and then I say, okay, here's the Sarah passage. And then I read the Sarah passage. And I'll go, you know what? I'm going to read it one more time because I really want to make sure that you got the Sarah passage. Not a big passage. And I read it again. Now I want you to turn and talk to your partner and tell them one thing you remember from the Sarah passage, but I want you to use it like, say it like this. I remember blank from the Sarah passage. Or blank is from the Sarah passage, and I thought this was interesting. Or whatever the sentence, the context you want. Then you have A say to B and B say to A, and you're walking around the room. Then you have a few of them share out and you write it on the board so everybody can see the language that was used. And then you can ask how many of you saw this, and they can say that. And then why did you think that was why did you bring this up? What do you think about this? Well, you guys, you picked up most of the really important stuff about the Sarah passage. And let me tell you why this was important, because we're going to learn about character. And we're going to learn how the author can make you see things with their words.
Mm-hmm.
That took, the whole exercise probably took 25, 30 minutes. But you know what I'm doing? I am building the concept of character.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them a purpose for listening. Didn't hold them up a long time. I had them apply. They got to socialize. They got to share out. They got to see their words. I told them why this was important. This is what we would be learning. I can say that ahead of time too, ahead of time, after time, but they got to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to give them multiple opportunities to practice that over the next 5 days before you go into setting. Now, sorry, I'm not your advisor. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding because I knew you in the summer. That's
no, yeah.
No, I miss you,
said
Connie.
I could just
You make me better.
David said, Susan, and next thing I know, Nate's calling me, Bob Barr's calling me, Sharon's calling me, the chancellor's calling me. Why are you trying to steal other people's? Oh, no. But you see, you can't just you cannot teach in the middle of the road.
Okay.
You have to cast a broader net, because in the middle of the road, only the kids are the kids in the middle of the road.
Right.
Missing a lot of students.
Miss too many students. And you have to have purpose for every single strategy. And if they see you doing a round robin read aloud and you're not at least having a purpose to that read aloud and a lot of checks for understanding, they're going to ding you, because that is the most ineffective strategy. It just uses a lot of time. But you have no checks. The kids are just reading, and Bobby's out here looking like, I'll just look like I'm listening. I'll just sit here.
Right.
I'll be quiet.
No, that's exactly what happens. I mean,
And then you ask them a question, and they're like deers in the headlight. And you think like, I just
and then you pull a stick and then put them in
minutes
the
reading
pot.
this, and then you guys don't, because they weren't listening to you.
Yeah.
See, what does that tell you? It tells me that my strategy was wrong. I have to change. That's this, informing your practice.
And so in the reflection, I think in the assessment, I can't remember, I haven't gone through like task 2 and task 3. Is there, where are they expecting to hear more about our reflection on?
You'll see. Right now, let me just go through the tasks. So task 1, you got to know what the rubrics are. Still task 1. Now they're doing language demand, the strategy review of the lesson plan as noted in the commentary. They're looking at identifying supports for language demand. Balanced literacy, very important. Graphic organizers, really important. Used properly. And then the 5th one is planning assessment to monitor students during the lesson. Checking for understanding. How are you assessing students while they're in the process of learning? That's the most powerful assessment, is formative. That's why they want you to do formative. Summative assessment tells you what you taught. Formative assessment tells you what they're learning. That's why you want to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are now in the video clip. This is rubric 6. In rubric 6, it says 1 or 2 instructional video clips, 1 and or 2. So this is what they're going to be looking at. Do you demonstrate rapport and respect to the students? In other words, is your class a community? Are they listening? Are they respectful? Are they getting up and being like all over the place? And does the candidate provide a low-risk learning environment that reveals mutual respect among students? In other words, students allow students to talk. Nobody disses another student if they don't get an answer right. It's okay to fail and not be ridiculed for that failure. And it's okay to be smart and not be ridiculed for your intelligence. Over here, they're looking at those things that you have over here, but you are also challenging learning. That means that it's rich, that it's not a middle of the road, that it's rigorous. And then over here, it says that you demonstrate all this rapport and respect, and you provide this challenging environment, and you provide opportunities for them to express perspective. In other words, let the children do most of the talking. Ask them why. Ask them how. Don't let them just give you one answer without a follow-up question. That follow-up question is just like a prize fighter in a fight. The more times you hit the person, that's what they're counting. How many times did you hit this guy? Did you hit this guy more times than he hit you? The person with the most taps wins the round if there's not a knockout. The person who does the most follow-up questions to checks for understanding, assessing student learning, and changing based on what the students are telling you, is the person that becomes the exemplar. Okay. Okay, and this is the video again, engaging the students in learning. So now they're looking at how does a candidate actively engage the students? So what are you doing so that they actually are, are being engaged? In one of the videos we saw, the teacher was doing was supposed to be a discussion, but I won't get into that. But she did have things that were relevant to the students. And when she put up particular kinds of pictures on her PowerPoints, the students really perked up and were very engaged. And then when she had other pictures on the PowerPoint, you saw kids that were sleeping on the side. So, okay. That's the strategy activity kind of thing. And here it's how do you get kids to respond to promote thinking? What do you do in order to make this a rigorous environment and extend the way that kids respond and think about something? What kind of questions do you ask them? Then down here it says, or compose text. You asked about writing. They can write. It's okay for them to write, but they have to, it has to be related. And then over here, it's everything you saw over here. We call this clear, consistent, and relevant. This is what we call clear and consistent. This is what we call clear. And over here is what we call a hot mess. Okay. The particular type of subject matter pedagogy. Here you have to demonstrate that you also know this subject well enough that you can turn on a dime and make it accessible to a kid that doesn't get it in one format. So you made it, you know, so I'm going to teach this way to the kids, and you're teaching this way, and then a kid says, I don't get this, and I'm confused. And you say, well, saying the same thing to a person that doesn't get it the same way, the person's still not going to get it. You have to figure out another way now to reach this person. So you know your subject matter well enough so that you can create comprehension for people that don't understand. Turning on a dime. And then we have the video clip again. The candidate uses evidence to evaluate and change teaching practices. When you look at your video, this is reflection on your practice. What do you see? And what are the patterns you see? Positive and negative. But of the ones that are negative, what are they? What did you do? And how might you change that in the future? Or not how might, how will you change that in the future?
Yeah.
There's no might here. It's just that if it didn't work, you got to change it. So what do you think you might do? And then it's based on, I can see this didn't work because these kids were asleep. The question wasn't right. They had too many words in it. But I did notice when I put the cartoons up that the kids were really engaged.
They perked up.
So I think I need to, next time I will add more visuals to this, and I'll make sure that the visuals are relevant to things that the kids like. I'm just saying that's something you can say, but that's the kind of thing they're looking for. Okay. You are now analyzing student work. So this is the other one. Analysis of student learning.
Task 3.
Is this three? Hold on. Analyzing teaching. That's the video clip. Okay, yeah, this is task 3 because now you're out of the video. This is the first prompt. This is where you have the student work samples in your evaluation criterion. Make sure you have a rubric. That's a meaningful rubric. Then you have what types of feedback does the candidate provide to the focus students. This is where you're going to take that video or audio or having written evidence of the feedback that you gave to the students based on the evidence that they gave you in class and in hand. And then you have assessment commentary. So you have to write up what you did. And then you have prompt 3, which is how does the candidate analyze the student's use of language to develop content understanding, back to balanced literacy. And then you have how does the candidate use the analysis of what students know and are able to do to plan for the next steps of instruction. And I think that, is it the last one? Yes, this is 4.
That's it. Yeah.
This is 4. Okay, this is 4. Those are your rubrics. Okay, now you get to see the commentary. Here's the commentary. I'm not going to read through all of this, but I'm going to tell you, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to tell you this. The young lady that wrote this commentary got a 4+ on this commentary and her lesson plan. The commentary for this is really nice, very nicely done. We all were very impressed. And then we saw all of her other commentaries and we were like, is this the same woman? Because she barely passed task 2. Barely, just barely. And then she was like, okay for task 3, but there was just enough there to get her past task 2. It was a low 3. So here's the context of the kids. And you'll see she's got a lot of information about students must perform proficient levels, because they ask the question, listen, any special features in your classroom setting, things, blah, 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 that will affect the teaching of this learning segment. So in your classroom, something that's really going to affect the teaching of this learning segment is your class is basically divided into 3 kinds of kids. You've got a population of 25 or 30. You have 10 kids that have identified learning issues with IEPs. You don't have to get into what they are. You have 5 kids who are in the process of having SSTs, and you have 10 kids that are at these 3 different levels of English language development. And you have 2 kids in your class that are English speakers. And then you say, why? This is going to be an issue. And it's casting that broad net. How does this impact your teaching? Okay. You describe the district and the school. And the woman here, I think, is from Denver. She has no EL kids because she's from out of state. Then you talk about the class featured in this assessment, you know, who they are. And look, see here, literacy is taught from a primarily novel-based approach, whereas language arts is supplemented with a textbook. And she talks about the textbook. Okay. So now you get into the elementary literacy about the students in the class, who's gifted, who's not, and then all this, who's what, and you put that down, whatever they are, and now you're talking about the central focus. Describe the central focus, the essential literacy strategies for comprehending or composing text you will teach in the learning segment. Okay. So you're going to describe what it is. Now remember, go to your standard. The standard tells you what it is you're going to have to teach. And then you've thought about best choices. And this says, well, this is going to be reinforcing X. Students are going to be creating paragraphs. You talk about the learning segment. They have just completed so many weeks of this. And this is their first time creating a paragraph. If you just put in the word first time, that automatically makes this a formative assessment. So this is their first time, and we will use this assessment for them to talk about what they did and so on. So I'm just saying you could do that, but what would change is the kids would have already written as part of the lesson planning, and then they're going to take their work and get in peer groups and talk about what's happening. Now that's a beautiful use of language and a beautiful strategy for teaching and learning, as opposed to the teacher reading their work, assessing it, and giving it back. Okay, now that is the choice of strategy. And you say, why this will work? And see, she put in a theorist that says, if you do this, this is from this theorist, this is a good idea, developmentally appropriate. So then she talks about the central focus of what the reading, the segments are going to be. And then she talks about how they build on each other and so on. And she just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. And she talks really, really well. And I saw the word divorce. So in here, she knows if kids are divorced, have divorced parents. She knows what nationalities they are. And here's another thing. And she talks about academic performance at school for a particular type of kid that comes from a divorce based on this theorist. Can't just drag and drop. Things have to be specific. Doing this is very good as long as you're not just peppering stuff and it's meaningless. Supporting student learning. So this is the whole commentary. I'm not going to read this to you, but it tells you what it is you need to do. And here is, we're talking about the supports, developmental supports. Here they give you language functions. So the kids are going to retell, summarize, explain, interpret, analyze, categorize, question. Okay. And then she talks about they want the syntax and the discourse. She talks about that down here and so on. I'm not going to go through all this part. This is the commentary. And then she has a bibliography. God bless her soul. She now shows you the learning materials. She shows you the student work. This was her PowerPoint. Oh, that's the picture of the dog and the kid. Oh, okay. And then it shows the graphic. This is the EL sample making inferences rubric. This is how she's going to grade it. This is the checklist for them in lesson 2. This is making inferences rubric again, more detailed, more work. And then she had this activity in lesson 3 called the Inference Cafe. And this is where she actually worked too hard.
That's unique, so I saw that.
She was showing off here. And
yes.
This was her weakest piece because it really wasn't relevant. It did not provide her with information about what students really knew. It was a time waster. It was cute, but she didn't need to do this. And we all dinged her on that because it was a waste of time. And then she's got this thing where they were supposed to do some kind of artwork.
I have the picture, yeah.
Yeah, and then she has this riddle writing. So she's just showing other ways that they could use language. Because that's what you can only use language by using language. So now we're into the daily lesson plan itself. And here's just the first of 3 lessons, the information, the block, the time, whole class. And then she just goes through and she answers these questions. So now, what is the big idea? Well, remember when we looked at that lesson, the big idea was the kids are going to, for the first lesson, the big idea was they're going to build background. So why do you need that? Well, they're going to read something and they need to all know this background. And I'm going to do this language thing in this background. It told you, you're doing all this language crap inside of that background building because they were doing pairs. And then prior knowledge or conceptions. It's like, what's the prior knowledge and what are the prior skills? And then academic language, and then the goals. This is where you're going to write. The students will be able to. And it told you, the students are going to be able to identify what makes a pair. And then it tells you this is the standard, and then the academic language demands. It's really important. I personally am pushing all my students now. Be glad you're not my student in this respect, because all my students have to write how they're going to teach vocabulary and what the demand is of the vocabulary. Here she talks about inference writing, but to me, I would make them do the 3 pieces: the context, then I want them to do the application, the content, the context, and the syntax.
Is all of this still day 1 of the lesson?
Yes, darling. Yes, this is day 1. The expectations for the students' learning. Student feedback. This is what you did. How will you support them? Meeting their goals. And then exploration. How with the stuff that she used, how she used it, the questions that she asked.
Okay, this is more than 4 pages.
But this is the lesson plan.
I thought it said each day can only be no more than 4 pages.
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. My heart. See, okay. Then there was a modification from her. This is like 3 years old.
Oh.
Okay. So if it's only 4 pages, then it's only 4 pages. I'm going to show you the template you're going to use, but you got to be really clear in those 4 pages. And then the resources, and then guess what? Lesson 3, and then she goes through the same crap all over again.
I see.
All
And
right.
our lesson plan, our LPA, is very different.
Yeah. Our LPA doesn't help you at all.
No. So
Okay. So
are you having your students do the LPA from the EdTPA?
they are right now, and I'm not going to change this group of students.
No, I'm not changing it. I'm having my students.
I'm having them modify it, but I'm not going to change them
Yeah.
because it's too much. It's like they're halfway through.
It's too much.
It's too much. But I am doing it for my incomings. Okay. So
All right.
You
That sounds
get,
good.
you get, because you won the prize,
Yes.
you get, let me,
You did.
all this information for task 2 and 3 as well. Same thing, okay? Now in task 2, you get her videos, both of her videos. When you look at these videos, remember, she barely got through task 2 because what she wrote about and what was here, which what we saw her teach, was very linguistic and teacher focused, but she really had rapport with the kids. There was a positive learning environment. The kids did raise their hand and talk. They did relate to that cartoon. There was enough there for her to pass with a low 3, but it's a 3.
So what does she lack on again for that piece?
You know what? Because you're going to see what she said she was going to do, and then you're going to see what she did.
Oh.
You have to read the commentary first, and then you look at the video. If you look at the video, you will not actually understand the commentary as well. You will be influenced by the video. You read the commentary first, then you look at the video.
Okay, so they didn't match.
Right. She did do some of the things that she said she was going to do. It was how she implemented them that did not push her up. It was enough for a beginning teacher. That's what I'm saying. She didn't have to be perfect, but it was enough. Okay. And then you have the same thing for task 3. And this is the student work and then her analysis of the student work. And this was okay. It was a 3. It was just okay. It wasn't anything special or spectacular. I would venture to say she was really exhausted by the time she got here, and she just went,
Task 1.
you know, this is how I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any of this for task 4 because she didn't give us anything. So what I'm going to do for you, and which I did for all of the students that actually were here, is, hold on, make that smaller. And it's this file. I'm going to share this with you. So it's
SHOD as in dog.
There you go.
There we are.
And then I have Sydney, SYMU. And then I had Betty, BESC. Okay.
This is all very helpful, Connie. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to do this.
Oh, you're welcome. Don't worry. I already had my broccoli. That was all broccoli. It's a broccoli smoothie made with broccoli and water.
Ew.
Yeah, it's yucky. I have my water here, which I'm going to drink now. And then I bought myself an itsy bitsy teeny tiny little cupcake. And that's my
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm going to go get a glass of wine. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so these are the only examples I have of tasks 1, 2, and 3. Please use, but do not shake up. Okay. Okay. So now I want to take you to what? Let me go back. Am I taking you anywhere? Or am I done taking you for this ride? We saw that. Oh, yeah. I do have to take you one more place.
You're very thorough, Connie. Really very thorough.
Yeah, well, I don't feel responsible for anything, but I feel a responsibility
Right.
to provide you with as much information as I can that I know you did not get while you were a teacher, while you were in our program?
Mhm.
Because we never did this. It was for a totally different document.
Yes, and there's just so much. You know, you really should consider the opening at Cal State Teach, Connie. I'm just saying it. Okay.
She wants.
Mhm.
So this is task 4. All right. Making good choices. And it's actually very clear.
Yes, that's where.
This particular document, what I like about it is that here are the links, but these are the things. Does this need to be completed? They ask you, these are the questions you need for setting the context. When you go into those decision points, the analysis of the student work, what kind of work should it be? What's the focus of the analysis? How detailed should it be for the class? These are the questions that you click on here. It gives you everything you need to know.
And see, when I first looked at this, I was wondering, like, if I needed to create like a chart or something to show the comparison of the whole class and how they did.
Well, let me tell you something. If you don't have a chart to show this is how the class did, then your summary is like, well, some of them, blah, blah, blah. A chart. Let me tell you about the analysis of student work. When you analyze student work, if you do it as a class, you never look at the students individually. The best way that I have found to teach the analysis of student work, and it was something that was taught to me when I was a BITSA coach, and I really like this, is that there actually was a form. But what you do is you write the rubrics, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the rubric is, and then you put a pile. You look at the work and you stick it in the pile. You look at the work and you stick it in the appropriate pile. Then you go back to each pile and you look at that work and you look at the name of the kid on that work and you write that kid's name down in a box of wherever that is. So it's not just 4 kids didn't meet my expectation. Raul didn't meet it. Sandra didn't meet it. Jackie didn't meet it. And you write down the percentage of what they didn't meet. And then you look and see, are there patterns here for these 4 kids, or were they all over the place? You do that for every single pile. Because if you don't write the kid's name down, then you're not looking at your students. You're looking at a class. And the class is made up of people. And you've got to look at each one of them. Then from that, you take a representative sample from each one of the rubric pieces. And then you write that name down there, and one of them must always be your focus student. And you write down, what is it that made you put this here, their name, and then you write down, what is it you're going to need in order to shore that up for every single one of them, including the kid that got 100%. Because the kid that got 100% means I have to extend this kid's learning. Because this kid already knows this. I'm going to be stuck over here for a while still reteaching, but I can't make this kid sit through this reteach. I have to figure out a way to help extend this kid while I'm over here reteaching. Then on the back of that, you write the plan for every single kid, for all the kids that you identified as your focus kids. If you do that, you've planned for your whole class. But until you see every single child, then you will never be able to address the needs of the group. Because the group doesn't have a problem. Every single kid has a problem. And I learned that, and I thought it was really lovely the way it was all set up. So I really like that way, because it makes the teacher, and all the teachers who did it all really learned how to analyze student work. When they really needed to analyze student work, you don't do this every single time, but you would do it on like a major benchmark point. So that when you're looking at it, you're going to say, okay, half my class still does not know how to do punctuation, but it's not half the class. It's Johnny, Jack, Susie, Carol. They need additional help. That's a very different way than thinking about half the class. So anyway, if you just go into these questions They tell you what to do. Exactly. That's why I'm not, this is where you redo the lesson. This is where you're going to video yourself talking to the kids about the redo. And this is where you're going to talk about, you know, okay, I did this. Let me show you. We're going to try this again only another way. Feedback. Okay. And then it tells you everything you need to know. All right. So that's that one.
So Connie, so say for instance, you have a assessment or something that whatever you used, and it has, say for instance, it has 5 questions, and everybody messed up on number 5, and maybe you know half of them, you know, maybe 5 messed up on number 1. So so in my example, I would say, you know, I'm going to reteach the whole class number 5 because everybody messed up for whatever reason. But then the other people who messed up on number 1, they may not have the basic concepts, which will be needed for, you know,
they don't have the skills. Remember those related skills?
Yeah.
That they're always talked about? And let's say you're doing regrouping. They don't have the related skill of number sense.
Right.
They're struggling with basic addition.
Right.
So that's the related skill they do not have to meet the target goal, which is regrouping.
Okay.
Okay. That's what you identified from those 4 or 5 kids. When you look at if everybody misses one, the first thing you want to do is look and see, was it a good question? Was that actually a really good question, or was it a confusing question? If it was a confusing question, that makes it a lot easier. You just say, you know what, everybody, that question didn't make sense. I see why everybody missed it because it was a badly written question. So you just have to give everybody credit for it. If you look at it and it was a well-written question and they still missed it, now you have to look at what was I doing in my teaching that made that question that the kids couldn't get. Because reteaching it the same way isn't going to help the kids. You have to say, what was I doing? All right, I did it this way. That didn't work. What do I know about my class? Okay, I think this time I will use blocks or video or Khan Academy or whatever, because you can't teach it the same way. You can't go back and say, see this, see how the A goes to B and B goes to C, because they were going like, yeah, we saw that all last week. It didn't make any sense last week. It doesn't make any sense today. Okay, so you have to figure out a new way. That's what they want to know. Do you have enough creativity to figure out a new way? Okay.
Connie, I have to go.
Okay, go ahead. We're almost through. I'm going to show you the document. Thank you, May, for hanging in there.
I know, it was great.
So just so you'll know, the last document I'm going to show her is the one where they can check off, did I do these things?
Oh, that's good. Okay.
All right.
I will see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay. Let me find this one. It is in the elementary handbook. I'm pretty sure that's where it is. And where is it? It is here. Here's the literacy planning documents and stuff like this, what to do, what to submit, and so on. But there is this document. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Come on. Hey, is that it? No. I wonder if I have it in my Google Doc. Hold on. Everybody looking at this going like, why is this woman doing that? That's not in this one. Hold on. It is. I did that one. Let me try. Academic language. No, I thought it was. Let me go back to my Google Doc real quick. No, it's in the Life Binder. Hold on. I want you to know where this is, because you got to be able to bouncer. Oh, I didn't show you the template. Are you using the template that came out that everybody is using to write it up, or using your own?
For what is this?
Here, this is the that's not what I want. This is the lesson planning template that this came out from the state. Are you using this?
No.
Use this to write your lesson. See, because all you have to do is take these off. I think this is a PDF. I'll have to put it up here in a Word document as well. But it says central focus of the lesson. What is the big idea or focus question of the lesson? And you just take that
So,
off.
yeah, I have that on there. I have let me see. I have at the start of my lesson, I have the central focus. Wait. I have the state standards, the central focus, learning target, instructional materials, and then I have 2 columns with the left, sort of like we did on the the TPA,
Yeah.
where the left column is the instructional strategy and the right column is the learning task.
Uh-huh. Well, what you want to do is just make sure if this is the one that's suggested. No, it says all words and phrases in red can be found, but this is the one that actually came from it came from a faculty member that said it came from the state.
Yeah, because no, they don't provide this on the site.
So we are providing it for you.
Okay.
Okay. And I will have to find, this is a PDF. I'll have to find it in a Word document and I'll put it up in a Word document.
Yeah, because I was hoping that we would get a template, but when you go,
I don't know if it no, but there is no template. You can use any document you want, but this one is very thorough and it has prompts in it. So this is the one that we're suggesting our students use.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, because it just has like what you need to include, but it doesn't say,
Oh, here it is. Here it is. You see that when I went through the commentaries, you see these little boxes right here?
Yes, I have that.
Okay, this is your checklist. Describe the central focus, blah, blah, blah. Here it gives you, given the central focus, the standard objective. Did you do this? If you did it, put a check mark right there.
Oh, no, wait, Connie. You know what I was doing with this? We're supposed to put our answers in those brackets.
You are?
Yeah. It has
Is that what they give you from the state?
Yeah, this form is what we have, and it has let me pull it up.
Oh, I see. To respond to the prompts below, no more than 9 single space. This is 9 pages. By typing your responses within the brackets, do not delete or alter responses page. Well, they must have changed something then, because when we went to we went to our training, they said we could use anything we wanted.
But for the lesson plan, we don't get anything. So we get this for the commentary. I haven't looked at task 2 yet.
Okay, but you still want to go back after you write everything to put the check marks and make sure you got everything. Mm-hmm. But I think hold on, that's why I was in that thing. My friend Laura showed it to me. And I know it's in this handbook. What do I want to say? Page 18.
Oh, you know what? I think I know what you're talking about. It's a
checklist.
Yeah, it's like it's like the first 3 page, it summarizes. It's a summary. Is that what you're referring to?
I don't think so. Let me see what happens down here. Let me see what happens below. No, that's not it. I'm going to event chart.
Oh, see, I thought you were talking about that. No, not that, but
this?
No, it's like within the first, go back to the beginning of the document.
Okay, let me move this.
Is that the 77 page one? Yeah. So if you go back to the beginning.
Okay, hold on, let me get that. There we go. Is that?
All right. So yeah, is you referring to this?
Just like one class, provide relevant mathematics overview chart. I don't want to do that one. This one. Yeah, hold on. Select a video. Does it do that? Respond to prompts. Does it do that? This is it.
Okay.
Determine if additional information is needed. Did you do that? So you want to go back over these to make sure that you did what it asked you to do.
Okay.
Okay. I will make sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it because Laura showed it to me. She said you could just check it off.
Mhm.
And it'll, that way you know you did what it asked you to do. This document is so different from how we teach you that I'm just, yeah, here's another one that has those boxes. I'm just really concerned.
Yeah, that's what I thought you was talking about.
Yeah.
That right there.
What's
That's what I was using. That's what
Yeah,
I've been
this will
using as
do it.
part of my
Your
checklist.
blank, yeah, define and submit. Yeah, okay. You just want a checklist.
Mhm.
Okay. I just wish that it was different. I wish the world was different. I wish we all, I wish Donald Trump wasn't running. So
But I mean,
Republican, you heard
I
it.
felt, once I figured out that the rubrics, rubric 1 matched task 1
Right.
and task number 2, number 3, number 4, it helped lay it out a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of details that they're asking for.
A
So,
lot of detail. So if you don't feel you can make March 3rd, did you already pay for March 3rd?
you know what? They don't tell when you register, they don't tell you, they don't give you like a time. Yeah, I was thinking, I guess you
Oh, they
just,
just take your registration so you can
yeah,
make those dates. Okay, if you don't feel you can make March 3rd, then make the next one.
yeah.
Now
I
that,
mean, I want to, but I'm feeling like I want to make it right. I don't want to,
that's what I'm saying. Make it the next one instead of March 3rd, because remember, in the summer, it doesn't matter.
Mhm,
Summertime is different.
mhm,
So that you will still have enough time to apply for your credential.
mhm,
Okay. What we're trying to find out now is if you don't pass your TPAs, you have to re-enroll as a clinical experience to take it again. If you don't pass it and something happens at the end of the term, you have to re-enroll. You have to pay $1,800 to be
oh,
attached to the university. That is not what's happening here, that as far as we know. I don't think you're going to have a problem once you understand what it is you have to do. And you can talk to your advisor. You can talk to your advisor about, does this look right? They can't write it for you, but they can coach you.
right. So even if we submit over the summer, we would have to do that.
Right, because it's evaluated by a third party. They tell you the submission dates. We're taking them on this date, and we're taking them on this date, and we're taking them on that date. You
Right.
pick the date that you want to submit. You just have to remember, if you submit now, March 3rd, and you don't pass a piece, you can take it later in March.
Uh-huh.
Pass it, you'll be clear and finished with Cal State Teach on the last day of school in April. If, however, you wait too late, you take it in March, you might not get your scoring until after, which could all of this is holding up the application of your credential.
So as long as we resubmit while the term before April 20th.
No, you can submit after April the 20th. You can submit on any of those submission dates, but you hope, because we're going to get you out of our program. You're still going to leave our program.
Right. But what I'm trying to avoid having to do the clinical piece. So can I resubmit before April?
Right now.
I'm trying to avoid having to do the clinical piece.
No, right now, for the EdTPA.
Oh, you're breaking up. I lost you.
Hello? You got me?
Where'd you go?
I'm here. I see you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, hold on.
There you are.
Oh, right now, there's no penalty. You don't have to do the CEs.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the old one you did. This one right now, there's no policy. So right now, you don't have to do the CE if you decide. It's just that what happens is you just hold up your credential process.
Right. I see.
So right now it's no harm, no foul, because it so happened so suddenly that we don't have any policies.
But if I were an intern, it would be different, because then.
No, in the summer there are no interns.
Oh yeah, that's right too.
That's what I'm saying. The summer is a pass. Even if you're an intern, you get a pass in the summer. So you still have that time. What you have to worry about is my intern credential going to expire?
Right.
Okay. If you got another 18, another 6-7 months on your credential, then you're still good, unless the fall comes, at which point you have to enroll in Cal State Teach Again, because you must be attached to
Okay.
the university.
I think that takes the pressure off a little bit, because I think I would much rather do March 17th, you know, so I can really do my best work, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. Um,
Yeah, you don't have to do the 3rd.
okay.
You can do any date you want because we don't grade it. And it does not affect. See, before, the TPA was part of our module work. So if you didn't pass it, you couldn't pass the term. You're
Right.
stuck. You didn't pass one of our criterion, so you don't get a grade. Your grade is incomplete till you pass this.
So because then I got to pass the RECA too. I have the RECA schedule.
Right.
So,
You're a student teacher,
okay.
but you will not get your credential until you pass the RECA. It affects interns. But again, in the summer, the interns get a pass.
So the same thing for me for the RECA as well. I need to pass it before the summer's over.
Well, you need to pass it as soon as you can pass it. So
Right, before I can get my credential. Yeah. Because I'm starting to, you know, interview and stuff, and so that's gonna be a contingency, I'm sure.
That's right. They want to know, where are you on this? They don't want you to they're going like, you're great. So do you have your preliminary? Well, I haven't passed the RECA yet. And I'm going to tell you, you want to make sure you pass the RECA, take the video RECA. Don't do the one online. Just do the take-home one. It's called the video RECA.
Yeah.
Do that. People pass that one because it's a take-home test. But you have to video yourself doing the lessons with these kids that they ask you to do.
Similar to what we're doing for the TPA.
Okay, but you don't have to sit for 5 hours.
Right.
So I always tell, I don't know why people want to sit for 5 hours. I'm like, go. You give me a take home, and the take home is I have access to everything. I'm going to do the take home because I have more time. I can, make a mistake and do it again and so on. And I can't do
that. And then if I need to do a retake, I could just try it the other way.
Do another way.
Yeah.
All right.
You're a godsend.
I'm leaving that on this video for everybody who's watching.
You've earned your wings for the night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, you take care. I know it's a lot. Right now, since you made a decision to wait, don't think about this. Just ruminate on it, but don't plan. Try to just open up the evening to something that's not related to this.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Have a good evening.
Mommy.
Bye-bye.
And this is what I got in the background.
Ah, that's where you went. Oh, look at your beautiful boys. All right.
They're waiting on their dessert. They've been waiting patiently.
Oh. Mommy. All right. Well, you go ahead and give them what they're waiting for.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, Mom. Bye.
But